Hey everyone, I have an exciting show for you today. I'm bringing back a past guest. Last time he was on the show with us, he talked about getting his first deal and proof of concept. That was about 8 months ago. He's been crushing it since then, so he was nice enough to get up early this Saturday morning so we can have another conversation before he starts calling potential sellers and making more money. Let's welcome Michael Butler to the show. How you doing, Michael?
How's it going, Mike? I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I always love talking to you. You're so much fun. I just leave happier after I talk to you. You got this great smile, big teddy bear guy. It's awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So why don't you remind everybody where you're at, what you do, and maybe talk a little bit about the first deal. So in case they didn't see that first video.
Okay. Obviously, my name is Michael Butler. I'm a wholesaler here in Fresno. Um, I usually use the term, real estate investor, but again, I mean that's what I'm practicing right now is wholesaling, and so for those watching, I'm a wholesaler here in Fresno. Um, and let me see, you said a little bit about me, right?
Yep.
Okay, so shoot. Kind of got into wholesaling about a year ago. I used to teach full time. Wasn't able to took my CSAT, which is one of the tests that you have to take as a teacher, in order to finish with your teaching credential. And so, if you're not familiar with it, you have to have it completed within, I think, 4 or 5 classes into your teaching credential.
Hmm.
I taught for 2 years, failed that test like 10 times, was pulled out of my full-time classroom as a special education teacher. At that point, I was pretty much lost, I think I had a little breakdown, because we've always been a single income household.
Yeah.
My wife stays home with the kids. And that's how I stumbled upon wholesaling. And from that point, I think, like they say, everything starts when your back's against the wall. And that's pretty much how I began with real estate.
Yeah. All right. So you had this event in life. You're going down one path. It didn't work out. You search for an answer. You find this thing called wholesaling. Probably not sure if it really works, but you give it a shot. And 4 months later, if I remember,
Yeah.
you secured your first assignment fee. So let's just remind people what amount it was, how it felt, what'd you do, all that, and then we'll get into the new stuff.
Okay, so even before it took 4 months for me to close the deal, but within I believe I locked up a deal within like my first 3 weeks, but
Okay.
it had a bunch of title issues. So I mean that was some of the roadblocks along the way, but that first deal ended up being a duplex that I ended up JVing with a local investor, a realtor here in Fresno, Darren Wade, and we pretty much made $20,000 on that one. We split it
Yeah.
10 and 10 each. And with that money, I pretty much, that's what I use to, um, I don't even want to say marketing because I don't have a really high overhead cost, but I think just from those 4 months of me not really having a stable income, it caught me up. But the
Yeah.
biggest thing, I think it was rich in the sense of, like you said,
Yeah.
proof of concept.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So now to the new stuff. So, okay, you have the proof of
Yeah.
concept, you get the 10K in your bank, you feel flush again. You probably take a big sigh like, oh, okay, good. This can work. What is, what'd you do next? I mean, cause you walk us through, actually, you know what, let's take it this way. How did you end last year? How many transactions,
Okay.
what did the year like? And then what we'll do is we'll map out, okay, April to December. So how did it end in 2019?
Okay, so it ended in 2019. It's actually slowed up for me because
Okay.
I do coach varsity football, and so I did. It's a blessing because I did see the difference of when you're not marketing
Uh-huh.
and when you are. And
Okay.
so, again, it took me a while to get the flow rolling. I was able to, for the most part, October and November, I wasn't able to close a deal.
Hmm.
I ended the year closing eight deals.
Okay.
8 deals, 8 or 9 deals, 8 or 9 deals. I actually used another method in the sense of sub two. I took over my grandmother's house sub two.
Okay.
So now that's now my primary residence. So I was able to
Cool.
purchase a home.
Yeah. That's
um,
awesome.
8 deals, and I was able to meet my goal of making 6 figures also. So it ended up
Wow.
being a pretty successful year for me.
I mean, that's, I'm guessing you don't make six figures as a special education teacher. I'm just guessing.
No.
No, I have no idea, but I'm
No.
guessing it's not that much.
As a non-credentialed teacher, we're looking, I think the year before that, and that's coaching 3 sports and teaching an adult GED class.
Uh-huh.
I think I pulled in about 60.
Wow. So wow, 8 deals. I'll call it life-changing money. Maybe you won't,
Sure.
but I will. Um, that I mean, what did you do to celebrate? I mean, because that's you did all of that. So I mean, you buckled down, you did the work. Um, Probably people around you didn't believe in you, thought you were wasting your time. And how's it feel now? I mean, that's got to feel good, right?
It does, man. It feels amazing. Sometimes I use a term, not even a term, but a phrase. I say sometimes you have to step outside of yourself and actually appreciate yourself because when you get so focused in on something or creating something, you're constantly comparing yourself to others. And I do understand that's how you get great is you put yourself around, a circle of people who are doing great things above what you are doing.
Yeah.
And by nature, you have to pretty much elevate your game. And so I say step out of yourself, step outside of yourself, and sometimes you appreciate yourself because you can come a long way. And if you don't take that time sometimes to at least acknowledge your growth, it can bury you sometimes.
Sure.
And so I think that's really how I just appreciate. I do keep a pretty good circle of friends who are always positive, whether they believe or not at the moment. But it's great to have those type of people around you to at least, sometimes, give you a pat on the shoulder, even though you're going in the right direction, right? Because you have to have that in order to be successful. I mean, that's
awesome.
Around me, really.
That's cool. All right, so now let's get to the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about today. So you go from proof of concept to I'll call it a record year, personal record year of 8 deals and 6 figures. How'd you get there? Was it just more of the same, rinse and repeat? Did you tweak something? Did you double down on marketing? How'd you go from this proof of concept, I can do this, to a record year? What were the big rocks, if you will?
A lot of it ended up being follow-up. A lot of it ended up being follow-up. I mean, I definitely didn't spend a lot in overhead, in the sense of like marketing. I probably didn't spend more than $10,000 in marketing. It was really a lot of failing forward.
Okay.
I dabbled in a lot of things, RVMs and text messaging. Never did. I guess I kind of did direct mail with Deal Machine with their postcards, but even at that, I stopped the postcards after a while. But a lot of it was mainly cold calling and just referrals, people I knew, networking with other investors, and making sure that I'm always, wearing my T-shirts. I buy houses T-shirts. Just kind of just putting myself out there, really, and being vulnerable.
Yeah. So really, so I want to break some of that down, right? So one of the things I see in the wholesaling game, and it's really in the investing game, but we'll talk about wholesaling today, and the context is lots of different technology and apps and services and blah, 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 where you can spend some money, from RVMs to text message to mailers to Deal Machine to all that stuff. What do you, if looking back at it now, again, stepping outside yourself, to use your phrase, would you have saved that money on some of those and just, know who Michael Butler is and just, keep doing what you're doing? Or, what would you do different, I guess, if you could undo some things?
Well, we talked about failing forward.
Yeah.
And so to be honest with you, I kind of it wasn't necessarily always productive.
Okay.
But I think it really helped me at the start of this year understand that, okay, I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this.
Yeah.
Where did I get the best? And I'm not at the point yet where I'm tracking KPIs. I know Stratton's really good at keeping the numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We talk about visionary. I mean, that's 100% me. I kind of just go.
Yeah.
But I do know one thing that had worked really well for me was cold calling.
Okay.
I did like text messaging, SMS.
Yeah.
But to me, I mean, that's more when you're doing so much volume and you do have a team who are keeping up with those conversations and stuff like that. I'm not a person that can just send out a blast of text messages and then just wait for replies.
Yeah.
I have got a good flow in a sense of with bandit signs.
Okay.
So to me, that was my solution to when I'm coaching football, to always be marketing, but at least having bandit signs out there. I realized that has helped me, but the biggest thing was cold calling. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it because I do feel like that's what's brought me success in the past.
I love that about you. Again, it's the failing forward. It's, I've tried it, so now I can focus and not do it again. You just have the right mindset, a very healthy mindset. So I'm curious, did you always have that? I mean, growing up, were you always this positive kind of leaning forward guy, or does mom and dad deserve some credit, or what?
For sure. Darren always gets upset with me about that. Not upset with me, but he gives me a hard time.
Yeah, he razzes you.
Yeah, we'll walk into a house, and I mean, it's, oh man, we're looking at it, and I'm like, well, hey, I mean, look at this, look at that, because I think that's just, I don't know. I work with a lot of at-risk youth. Just being a coach and playing football at Fresno State. That, I mean, it's so many things that, I mean, if you let it bring you down, man, it will. No one wants to get up at 6 a.m. for weights 4 days a week and run, 4 days a week and lift for it becomes a lot. And if you just let that just constantly that's the negative stuff, the vibes that you think about all day, I mean, eventually you're going to be a negative person. So I've always learned to just find positives in something.
Yeah. And I would agree with you. Every interaction, both sort of you and I, and then me watching you with others, is you're that guy. It's like you have this aura of almost like a rainbow or positivity or whatever you want to call it. I don't mean it to sound weird. It's just, you're happy. You're a happy individual. So that's pretty cool. All right. So, 8 deals. So, again, cold calling. So I was in sales for nearly 20 years, actually over 20 years, but software sales for 20 years. And cold calling is the absolute hardest thing to do. So how'd you build that callus so that, I don't know, rejection or whatever you want to call it, because most phone calls are abrupt and end quickly. How'd you build that callus so you just move on to the next one?
Shoot, I would say that the Mojo dialer helps a lot with that also.
Okay.
Because it is, I mean, you end it or you drop the voicemail and you just keep rolling. But the biggest thing is just practice. Okay. And in no way would I say like I have the best confidence when it comes to just hopping on a cold call. But I just like to think with my personality, and that's one thing that I've learned to kind of just let flow is, I was told by a guy that, a seller that I was working with before, who actually was an investor. He was retired. And he invited me over to his house and stuff like that. And that's one thing that he actually had complimented me on, was not necessarily, wasn't necessarily my cold calling. Yeah. He said, he said he can hear nervousness through my cold call, but he told me to never stop going on appointments. Because he told me once he was able to meet me face to face and actually have a conversation with me, that it was one of those things where he's like, that's what really sold me. He said our conversation on the phone was actually really good. He was like, but he's like, if one thing you don't do is don't stop going to appointments, because that's where you're going to make your money.
Oh, I would agree with you. Your presence, like I just said earlier, it just makes people feel comfortable and better. So yeah, I would agree with them. Never stop going on appointments. All right. So any other big things that you kind of credit your success belief from going from that proof of concept deal to 8 and 6 figures? Any other things you want to share with the audience before we talk about this year?
Okay, always learning. And there was moments where I did, it was kind of, it gets tough because sometimes it ain't moving. And I think just having the ability to have some staying power, having a little bit of grit to you, being able to, you hear it a lot in this industry, is that a lot of people, wholesaling is easy, and you always got a lot of newbies, and I'm still relatively new. Yeah. But I prided myself on not just being one of those guys that came into the industry and kind of washed away after a couple of deals because it got tough. And so whenever it got tough for me, I always reminded myself, like, staying power. Like, you're going to build respect in this industry by being able to stay in this industry.
Yeah. So actually, there's one more thing about 19 I want to talk about, because I think people need to see that even people that are quote unquote successful have air pockets. And I think you mentioned earlier, let's actually just break it down. So you got your first deal in April, or your first check in April, and you did 8 by the end of the year. Was it just one a month for 8 months? Because that would just be too easy. Or did you?
I had a month where I had about 2 in there, but I think it was about one a month. Okay. And that was my goal, to be able to get one a month, and just went from there.
All right. So you didn't have a big air pocket or 2 months of nothing, or you're like,
I had October, November.
okay. So October, November, you had nothing. So, okay. That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. So you roll into October. So what's that month before that? September. So you probably have 4 or 5 deals done now by September. You're probably feeling good, right?
Yeah.
You start coaching football, and your time goes down that you can commit to this
Tremendously.
and suddenly the checks aren't showing up. Did you ever? I mean, what was that like? Did you feel like the market changed, or you were doing something wrong? Did you ever lose faith, I guess is what I'm asking.
I never lost faith because if it works, it works. And like they say, the process is so simple. It's one or two things. It's either the industry, right, or it's you. And it's easy to say, oh, well, the market isn't doing too great, But like I said, I surround myself with people who I know do deals.
Yep.
So how is it that everyone around me is doing deals, and Michael, you just haven't done deals these last 2 months? Like, no, like it's you, dude.
Yes. You look in the mirror and go, it's you.
It's you. What's changed with you?
That's
and the
awesome.
biggest thing is because at that point I was still working. I do sub full time still, basically. I still work every day. And so I do sub, and from there going to football practice till 6 o'clock, 6:30. I'm probably getting home about 7:20ish.
Yeah.
So that leaves me about 40 minutes of cold calling, and which I wasn't always doing.
Got it.
And so what that I think that taught me that I did have to eventually, I either need to consistently cold call, or I need to start training someone to do some cold calls for me, because I promised myself that I wouldn't let that happen again, because it took too much to get out of it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. All right. So now for some fun stuff. It's 2020.
Yeah.
What is it? It's like the 18th. What did Michael say he's going to do this year? You put a number out there. Is that big whiteboard over your left shoulder have a target or anything?
No, I ain't not on there yet. I told myself that I wanted to have just talking with Stratton and some of my peers is that I do want to have $100,000 a month sometime this year. I know again, that's something that I do believe is possible, and so that's something that I'm going to push for, because I mean that's just who I am. So there's really no method behind that. That's just who I am.
I like it. So a 6-figure month. Your biggest assignment fee to date was what? Do you remember?
Biggest assignment fee today is $24,000.
All right. So if you were able to do that, you'd have to do 4 of those. I'm just doing math, right?
Yes.
So you're probably talking about 5 transactions a month to get to the 6-figure month, probably, right?
You're going to have a nice hefty one in there somewhere. So probably a probate deal somewhere in there.
There you go. Okay. All right. So, I like that goal. Okay. So how do you do that? I mean, you probably have it in the second half because you're coming off a slow month or the slow investment, right? And there's always lead lag. Do you think you have to up marketing to do that, or is it just more of the same, or
definitely hunkering down on cold calls.
Okay.
I am looking into doing a little bit of SEO.
Okay.
To kind of drive some things home that way. I do use investor care and stuff like that, and just really just being more consistent in what I did previously, and focusing a little bit more on my pipeline. I think last year, you would get things in your pipeline, and here's where I talk about, not scaling, but like I'm adding my wife on this year, and that's going to be a biggest thing when it comes to organization for me, because when you're the one that's generating the deal, following up with the deal, following it through, title issues and escrow and sending documents and stuff like that, it's really easy to get fixated on one deal, one lead.
For sure.
And so integrating my wife into that role to where I'm doing the marketing and taking that initial lead. I've taught her a little bit on how to analyze a deal and comp it out and stuff like that, so she can send me a max allowable offer. From that point, I'll be able to negotiate the deal. If I lock it up, at that point, she'll be the one sending it to title company. She'll be the one following up with the seller. Yeah. At that point, I'll be moving into disposition.
So kind of like a transaction coordinator. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll make sure it's loaded in the Podio and things like that. And so that's going to help me tremendously, because that took away a lot of my time.
Yeah.
Just having to make those phone calls and stuff.
And please don't take this the wrong way, because you could crush me if you wanted to. but yeah, you're not, everybody's not good at everything in this
Oh,
business.
100%. And your biggest struggle will be thinking that you are.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So bringing in the wife to something that maybe causes you frustration or stress or whatever, so you can save that time, but more importantly, save that energy and use
Mhm.
it on what you're uniquely good at,
Yes.
should have a meaningful difference in your
And I
business.
believe that I'm great at acquisitions.
Oh,
I,
no question.
I 100% believe that that's one thing that, even talking with, like I said, Stratton, me and Stratton talk a lot. Me and Stratton talk a lot. Stratton hates acquisitions, right?
Ah,
And that's one thing with me. I'm like, I love talking to people.
yeah,
I love, going on appointments. It doesn't even have to be a deal,
right.
because the impression that you're going to have of our conversation is going to bring me more in the future than just this one.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's funny. I talked to a big, $1 million producer just yesterday. I think it's called relationships over transactions. And he's
Yeah.
essentially saying the same thing. He's like, every appointment you get on is a chance to have a conversation and build a relationship, because maybe that's not a deal, but
Mhm.
that could bring you 5 deals if you
100%.
leave that impression. So that's pretty awesome. All right. So you bring the wife on, you're going to let her do some part of this. Actually, let's talk about that a little bit. How was
Okay.
it bringing the wife on? Did she ask you? Did you get stressed and she says, I can help? I mean, how does that
Well,
happen?
all last year, my biggest thing was I did a lot of driving for dollars. Again, a low cost marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and I've accumulated so many properties, and from that, obviously, you're skip tracing things, and you're getting numbers. Or maybe let's just say you have 100 properties, right?
Okay.
And out of those 100 properties, you skip traced it. Only 60 of them came back with numbers, and only 20 of them you were actually able to make contact with.
Yeah.
Now, what's happening with the other 80 contacts? Well, with it just being me, I'm not an organization person.
Yeah.
So I might dabble in the 80 and using, digging deeper into one of those, or
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
what about those other ones that I haven't even touched?
Right.
But you don't want to stop marketing or finding more leads. So you're constantly building this list,
Mm.
but you've never even contacted 80% of your list.
Yeah.
And so with that, I think I had just got too far to really return.
Ah.
And she had asked me throughout the year, last year, hey, let me know where you need help. And I was so more focused on I need more, someone else to make calls,
Yeah.
not thinking that she could help me keep organized where my calls might run a whole lot more efficiently
Yeah.
had I been more organized. But at that point, I had got overwhelmed because I didn't even know where to start going back to start trying to clean up some of that mess.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Man.
so she had been telling me that for so long that it would, you don't like to admit when I mean, I don't have a problem admitting when I'm wrong. But the biggest thing is I didn't like that I let it go so far, and it was frustrating to even think about cleaning it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so at that point, I mean, I know I can't have a 6-figure month with that.
Oh, no question. Yeah. I think that's going to be a fundamental change to your business, because you're going to be able to squeeze more out of the leads you already have, or
Yeah.
prospects, or whatever you want to call them. You're going to be able to focus where you're uniquely gifted and good on acquisitions. Yeah, I think a 6-figure month is absolutely possible just by making that tweak or that leverage. So that's going
100%.
to be fun to watch. All right. So what words of advice do you have for a wholesaler who maybe got their first deal but is struggling to kind of make, to try to build something? Any advice for them?
It's funny because I hear it everywhere. And the biggest thing is just they say reverse engineering.
Ah.
And sometimes it's hard to even reverse engineer it because you're like, I don't even know what I did to get there.
I don't
You
know what
know what I'm
happened.
saying? It's like, I don't know. Like, I just, just keep your head down and just keep doing the same thing. Like, really finding a focus. My focus this year is probably going to be in my marketing.
Mm.
I'm not gonna do a lot of things. So someone might beat me because they're doing SMS, they're doing RVMs and all this other stuff. Stratton's good at all of that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna cold call.
Yeah.
Until cold calling is just not great for me. I need to start looking for a way to build a team.
Yeah.
And I can't do it by trying to do all these things. Right? So I like driving for dollars. That's something I can do with my family, and
Yeah.
cold calling. So at that point, I want to keep my systems and my processes really simple. to where I can, document my processes and my systems and eventually be able to add pieces to that. Because right now, or where I was at, that was another frustrating thing, is because I didn't know where to even start to build something, because it wasn't simple.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say definitely keep it simple, attack it, keep your head down, and never stop talking to people, telling people what you do. I post a lot on social media, and a lot of it is the same stuff.
Yeah.
Because I use the toothpaste method. Like I said, I watched a video a while back where they talked about, if they asked two people, or they asked you, hey, name 2 brands of toothpaste, and it's branding, right? And you're like Colgate and Crest, and it's not because it has the best teeth whitening, fluoride, whatever is in toothpaste, right? It's because you see it the most.
Right.
And so I don't have a professional marketing picture. It's something that my sister-in-law took in the backyard Easter of last year, right? That I happen able to just, mess with a little bit and just happen to throw it on everything. And people see it all the time.
Yeah, no, I do too. It's awesome. All right. It's fun to watch. It's fun to be around you. It's fun to see success. I want to thank you for getting up early and having this conversation. Hopefully people watch this and go, yeah, I see it. I know how, because you've changed your life, right? You've changed your family's life.
For sure.
And, this is going to be fun. And I guess, what does the end game look like? Do you coach football, varsity football, because you love it and you're always going to do it? Or does the end game, 2 or 3 or 5 years from now is like, nope, I'm a full-time investor? Have you thought about that?
When I get scared, I ask myself, what will I do?
Okay.
If I couldn't do this. But then I tell myself I'm doing this, for certain reasons. And so I have no choice but to continue doing it.
Yeah.
I coach football because I love coaching it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's a hobby of mine. I love being able, if I'm not going to teach full-time, varsity football is just Friday night lights and being with, teenage boys and being a positive role model to them, especially as an African-American man and owning my own business.
Yeah.
To me, that's something powerful that I can give back to young men.
Oh, no question.
Who think that, the typical route is, going to college and working a 9-to-5 job. And it's not that I'm trying to pull anyone from that. It's showing them that I'm living proof that you can do something other than what other people tell you that you have to do in order to be successful. So I do love the role model aspect and building young men of coaching varsity football. So that's not something that I plan to stop doing. If anything, it forces me to get better at my business because it has to be automated at that point.
Yeah.
So my end goal, I love this. So I don't know. It's not like I'm like, hey, once I get to this point, I just want to stop.
Yeah.
I genuinely love what I do. And it finally makes sense to me that when you love what you do, you're not working.
Yeah.
And so obviously I want to build a portfolio.
Yeah.
Eventually. I think last year I had a goal of getting a couple rental properties. This year I don't have that goal.
Yeah.
Because I also think I overanalyzed everything in the sense of a deal that you can take down. Should I keep it? Unless it's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
It'll be an option for me. But my focus this year, again, like I said in the beginning, was wholesaling.
Yeah.
I am a wholesaler.
Yeah.
If people are interested in selling their house, come to me.
Right.
If you're interested in finding some deals, come to me.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I did want to make clear going into this year is that I'm wholesaling properties. That's
awesome. Well, when I asked that question, I actually got the answer I hoped for. Right? You coach varsity football because you love it. That's the thing you do. You call it a hobby. I might call it a calling, because you are building and mentoring young men, and you're in a unique position to have a real impact on them. So that's awesome. And you've chosen a career that you can do forever. Yeah. So. This wholesaling thing or investing.
I'm a lucky man. I'm lucky.
On so many different levels, you have no idea. All right, Michael. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for getting up early. I appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you.
You got it.